What happened? We all have been faced with a question like that in our lives. Circumstances, situations, events happen in our lives. And we're in desperate need of having answers. We have questions that need to be answered. We have nothing that will allow us to face the music, so to speak. I remember in a home delivery service that me and one other guy had, and I pulled up in front of the house. I told him, I said, just wait here and I'll run in and deliver the items that they needed delivered. A few minutes later, I came back out, and the guy that I was with looked at me and he says, I'm never riding with you ever again. And I said, what happened? And he said, war broke out. Desert storm happened. And I said, well, what happened? What did they say? And he goes, I don't know. They didn't give us any information. They just said, we went to war. And so during that day, I was changing channels on the radio to get more information, to get what happened answered. And I couldn't find anything until that evening when I got home. When things like this happen in our lives, we become like investigative reporters. We have to have answers. There's 4 things in our lives that, at least in my life, I have faced. And maybe some of you have also. Take, for instance, the first one would be relationships. Maybe you find yourself in a relationship that you want to go to the next level. And you've talked about it with the person. And then all of a sudden, they're saying, no, I don't want to go to the next level. Or maybe you had a long-standing relationship that came to an end. No rhyme nor reason. And many times there's no answers. Or maybe you had a business that you found yourself in financial hardships. Customers quit coming in. There's a restaurant off of I-76 called the Pepper Pod in Hudson, Colorado. And it had been in business for 114 years. This business began to wane. Customers quit coming in. And when it came to the portion of saying we're out of business, the people that owned it for the last 50 years owned it and had a good run. Now they were going out of business. Federal financial hardships. A few weeks later, a big sign came up on that wonderful restaurant, for sale. Or maybe you have a business partner that decided, I don't want to do this anymore. I need you to buy me out. And you don't have the funds to do so. What happened? Or a health issue arose. You go to the doctor and the doctor goes, you better get your affairs in order. What happened? There's no answers. No rhyme, no reason to why this is happening. I had a friend of mine about 6-7 years ago have a issue with his kidneys. And he had told me that his kidneys were shutting down. I said, what happened? And he goes, no one knows. The doctor gave me some medication. Hopefully it was going to clear it up, and it didn't. So I asked him, I said, what do you need? He says, I need a new kidney. And I looked at him and I said, I thought to myself, I'm a good friend, but not that good of a friend. I didn't have the courage to see if we were a match. And we had been friends for several years. While he was sitting in church one Sunday, he had the bottle that put liquid into his body. And then a couple times a week, he would go to the dialysis place and have it taken out. And this gentleman that he had seen a couple different times in church walked up to him and said, I understand you need a kidney. And he said, yes, I do need a kidney. He said, if we're a match, I will give you one of mine. They went through the process of finding out if he was a match. He was a match. And they set the time for the surgery. His surgery was put off for several months. During that time, his donor moved to another state. And before he left, he says, I guarantee you I will be back to give you one of my kidneys. He came back. They had the surgery and it went off without a hitch. Sometimes these things don't happen as much. Or maybe what happened to you happened to me, a career ending. My career had ended. I was unmarketable. I hit an age where even though I was in the top 10 in the nation, and at the time I was showing more promise on my numbers than anybody in the dealership. Yet, I was gone. I had to ask myself, what happened? And as I was reminiscing over some of this, over the next few months, I tried to get a couple things off the ground that never, ever came to volition. And I was like, man, what's happening? I found myself going down into a deep, dark rabbit hole. And that rabbit hole was going to be my security, because it gave me opportunity to lick my wounds, to reminisce, to look at my past and see what happened. And one day while I was reminiscing, a Bible verse came to my mind. And that Bible verse that Jesus said in Luke 9:62, anyone that puts his hand to the plow and looks back is not fit for the kingdom of God. I thought those were pretty harsh words. Harsh words. I've been a Christian all of my life pretty much. A gracious, loving God would say, I'm not fit for the kingdom of God because I'm looking behind me. Well, I'm not that bright. I'm a slow learner. And so I had to ask myself, what happened? What do you want from me? And as we began to look at this, if I'm not supposed to look behind me, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to live my life? Over the next few weeks, we're going to take a look at what we can do to get past our past, some of the negative things in our lives. I know that I had to do this, and I'm still going through a lot of it. But I want to share with you what I have already learned. My name is Ron Ruby, And if you liked what I had to offer this morning or today, please leave me some comments. Give me a subscribe to my channel so that we can begin this journey together. And you have a very nice day.